I feel like this whole wishy-washy whole Trump negotiation strategy or just getting pissed off or whatever he's doing, I have given up trying to analyze. To be honest, I don't know, we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I do feel like it's making America look kind of, like, reckless and crazy and not stable, and I don't know if the rest of the world powers are just kind of sitting on their hands until the next presidency or kind of what's going on. I feel like it makes us look really weak though because we were like all big talk, full dick on the table 1 minute, and then the next minute we're like making a deal with the IRGC, which everybody, even though nobody's willing to do anything about it until Trump, everybody agrees that IRGC is a problem. So I don't know. I just don't know what you think about that. I've been worried. No, I don't know if worried's the right word, but it's been something that's been on my mind. Like I feel like since that it just makes us look bad. I also am still concerned about our relationship with Israel, but I think hopefully we can patch that up, but we'll see. Anyway, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I do think that United States soft power has been hit um, significantly because of what this looks like. The world's impression of what just happened is that um, it's not completely inaccurate that the United States started something without realizing how difficult it is, and now is stuck inside it, and it cannot, and it's basically can't get out of something it started. Um, but the b- here's the other side of this, right? The United States looked really, really bad after the Vietnam War, right? It was pretty clear to the whole world. I mean, that was the whole world's impression that the world's superpower went against a weak, small country and was defeated, right? Like most of the world's understanding of United States versus Vietnam is that United States lost that war, right? And many many people would have been would have agreed that that it looks like United States is not as powerful, that it's going to get weaker and weaker, and this is the beginning of the fall of an empire, and this is basically the Suez Canal moment of United States in a similar way that it was for the British Empire, right? But look at what happened since then. United States dominance over global economy and its military power and its cultural power only rose since then, and it's now significant. The distance between the power, the military power, the economic power, and the cultural power of United States between the rest of the world since then has only increased like exponentially. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the impression of the world doesn't matter, but I just think that people underestimate how much United States fundamentals are so strong, and it's so prepared. United States is so prepared to take advantage of what's about to happen economically, technologically, and politically, that I think that the best of United States is ahead of us. Like I think people are right now, people say, oh, United States is a superpower. I think that what United States is right now is nothing compared to what United States is about to become. Like even with this power right now, I think people are going to look back at these days, and they think they're going to look and see like, oh my god, people were impressed by United States back then. Those were the worst moments of United States compared to the United States future. So this might look bad, but and I'm not saying that it's not important, but honestly it's insignificant to the foundations of United States and its current position globally, and how much that's going to benefit United States going forward.
I guess though it feels like okay, maybe that could happen, but it, it could also it feels like Americans or are it looks like from the world stage, from my point of view, it looks like Americans can't stomach the rise of a dollar more on gas, and that we will just cave to one of the most evil regimes that has existed in the last 100 years, and we will just cave because we can't stomach a dollar more at the gas station.
Okay, that's a feature, not a bug.
Can I speak on this?
Yes, go ahead.
If you are watching the Iran news and you're not watching 40, I think it's 40 something of the Iraqi people connected to Iraq be dragged off to jail, and all their millions that they stole both from the Iraqis and from the Iranians in the news. If you're not watching, you're watching the Iran news, but you're not watching that America got Lebanon and Israel to sat down and sign a paper together to get rid of Hezbollah. If you're watching the Iran news, but you're not watching that Marco Rubio was just in Syria, like if you're watching just the Iran news, that is a problem. But I don't know that the world stage watches the news the way Americans watch the news. Because Americans are very like one topic. I can't handle three topics. I'm just going to see everything that says Iran, and I'm going to ignore it if it says Lebanon. I'm going to ignore it if it says Iraq, because I'm just going to watch the Iran thing, right? Now, that kind of mentality does exist in America, but I don't know that that's the way the world stage works. The world stage would be seeing all these moves happening.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. Yeah, and there is good things that are happening. I also think that they've kind of solidified that yes, we're trying to protect our Western Hemisphere, which is mostly what I want. So I guess that's good. It feels that's how it feels. It looks like we are just being, I guess, on a global stage. It just feels like maybe it's just from the Western powers too. I'm not just watching Iran, but I'm watching like maybe it's just too much Western media. It just feels like the world sees us as just kind of easily brought to our knees because we can't sacrifice, but
Okay,
Well,
the
are you
world
seeing
might.
that on American news, or are you seeing that on Japan news, on South Korea news? What I mean, if you're only consuming American media and you think that what American media says, how we look in the
I'm
world stage, like there's a difference there. Like if the question is, how does the world stage see us? Well, you can't look at American news and get that.
no, I probably, though, now that you bring that up, though, I'm thinking you're probably correct that I watch way too much like Western media. So I don't just watch American media, but I probably do have too much of a Western bias if I'm thinking about it, at least the last few days. So that's a fair point.
I want to thank you because it's a good topic.
I do think that, um, based on what I've seen, other world media has that impression as well. But does it? How much does that matter, really? So the rest of the world that is judging America being weak to the Islamic Republic, those very same people enjoy less purchasing power and on average less safety than the Americans, right? So they could sit back and be like, "Oh, America is weak," while Americans are living better lifestyle and safer lives than they. So how weak is America, given that that's what they can deliver to the American citizens? I mean, do you want to look like you're winning, or do you want to really win? So which one would you choose? Look like you're winning and not really winning, or really winning but not look like you're winning and people bad mouthing you? Like, what matters more? Like, I think the true measure of whether you're winning or not is in the job market, in the stock market, in your inflation, in your purchasing power, and in your safety. That is how you measure whether you're winning, not what other people's perceptions are of your country. Right, Shana?
Of the international news that I do watch, I do see places like Japan, Taiwan, South Korea have a more broader like take on what's happening usually. Um, but I think you were correct in saying that it doesn't matter what they report, only what happens. Where the difference is for primaries. Where
Yeah.
that's what makes a difference.
Also, the American citizen saying like, oh, we're going to raise, like, we're going to be so angry and punish the politicians for raising gas prices another dollar. That is like, other countries look at that like, oh my God, you're so weak, you care about that. That is a demonstration of strength. The fact that's a luxury. The fact that you're not thinking like, oh no, like we have, are we going to have a jihadi army in our backyard raping our daughter? Like, if the fact that you're not voting based on that, who do I vote for so I don't have a jihadi in my backyard raping my daughter in front of me before they behead me? The fact that your voting behavior is not based on avoiding that, and your voting behavior is based on reducing gas prices by $1, that is not a sign of weakness. That shows that the luxury that you have, that you have to care about that instead of what other people around the world have to care about. That's a demonstration of strength, not weakness.
Oh, I did want to. I see your point, Armin. I will think about it. I did want to point out too, though, that part of why America's doing so much better, like as far as scale, like our width between us and other nations, right? Our strength is also because, at least when it comes to the Western nations, they've also made their own really stupid decisions and made themselves weaker. And we were like, we're not going to do that, which good for us. I'm glad that we are happy to burn dead dinosaurs. I'm super happy about that. But the the distance, I suppose, that you were talking about is not just our strength, it's also their weakness, at least when it comes to the Western powers. And so I think we, as Americans, just my little soapbox kind of moment is just to say that we still need to be focused on building our strength, because we can't just compare the distance.
Right. Let me you know what this reminds me of? You know how, like, some people see a rich person's life and they try to cope not having that by saying, I bet you he's miserable, right? I bet, let me find some signs, like, oh my God, he has a giant pool, he has a big house, he goes on vacations. I bet you he fights with his wife so much. I bet you, oh my God, I bet you he has such a fucking miserable life. I wouldn't want that life, right? I think like so much hate on United States by other people within other countries is resembling that. They see the strength of the United States, and they get jealous. They see its economy, they see its purchasing power, they see its stability, they see, and they're like, they look at the news, and anything that shows that America might be weak somewhere, they latch onto that and they celebrate that, because they're coping that they're not United States. They're not the United States.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that that's maybe part of it, but I also just think that when it comes to the Western powers, right, or Western Europe, there's also just the fact that I do think there's an elite class in Western Europe specifically that is contemptuous of the fact that these, like, ragamuffins that they got rid of 200 years ago are now beating them. Like, I mean, like, if you look at the history, we were like their peasants that they wanted to get rid of. We were their excess stock. Like, they didn't wanna keep us around. The elites only started to come in later. So I also just think that there's an element within, like, European elite society that does not understand why, like, these McDonald's eating, like, unwashed hooligans would be so much more powerful than them. I legitimately think that. So, I'm just pointing that out.
All right.
All right. Very special. Next response to this topic. Susanna, glad to hear you.
My God, it's not that special. Well, first of all, Shauna, I agree. I mean, just dealing with the daily contempt of Western European elites, that's just par for the course. That's nothing new. And I think you're right that it is also coupled by the fact that large swaths of Europe do have an active degrowth mentality. So you raise a good point there. But my actual point was, when you're saying, oh, well, they're saying that we look so weak compared to Iran, or standing up to the Islamic Republic, blah blah blah. My question is, in comparison to who? Them? 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 They're gonna judge us about standing up to the Islamic Republic? Give me a fucking break. Are you fucking kidding me? You're so weak standing up to the Islamic Republic. In comparison to who? You? bitch, you? What have you done? When have you put the bass in your chest, huh? When have you really stood on business? When? I'm waiting. I am waiting for the receipts because, sir, when? I mean, the only people who can really be like, nah, we're standing on business more than you guys, blah blah blah, would be Israel, for good reason. For good reason. They're the only ones who have been like, no, we put the dick on the table, like, they're the only ones who can like flex on us in that regard. So, oh, you look so weak in compared to the Islamic Republic. Do you want me to pull up the history books? Do you want me to pull up the receipts, the transcript? Because for all the whining, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. So I just find that criticism like very rich. Like, what, in comparison to the UK? Like, give me, in comparison to Austria? Like, give me a break.
I miss. Yeah, people.
Yes.
Somebody in the chat saying, "Wow, it's so long since I've heard a decent Susie rant." Yes. Oh my god, I miss that so much.
I mean, she's very humble, but I will be say that she is dearly and sorely missed. We would like to hear more rants. You say it's not special. Okay, make it not special. Come on over, talk as much as you want. So that's just an everyday thing. That'd be great. And I would also like to agree that surrender is a French word, and right now you can't spell cuck without UK. Okay, so that's what I would say to the. I'm talking about the governments. The people are good people, but those governments can't be talking. All right. Next to speak on this topic, Samantha.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to say, it's interesting when you were talking about how, it's weird, like some people might interpret it as weakness that we are so weak we can't handle like higher gas prices, but like you see as a sign of strength that like, we're worried about gas price that we're so strong, we're worried about gas prices, not like jihadis raping people. It just kind of reminded me, it brought me back to a conversation I had with like my friend who's like from Saudi and very, very anti-Zionist. And we had this one conversation where he told me how like, what's happening in Gaza is one of the most like horrific acts of human like what Israel's doing in Gaza is one of the most horrific acts of human cruelty and one of the most just like horrific, events of human suffering, what's being done in Gaza. And I'm like, no, it's not. And he told me, he's like, the fact that you don't understand how horrible this is just goes to show that that you're so like privileged. You don't understand how horrible like all that pain and suffering and death is. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, no, the fact that you think this is like one of the most horrific things in history shows how privileged you are, that you don't understand how horrible things have been in like other events and how just cruel humanity has been, if you think this is like the worst.
Yeah, I do have to say, humanity has been a lot more cruel than many of these examples. But in defense of humanity, humanity also has been very kind. And
No, it hasn't.
yes, it has. Humanity is filled with. Okay, Samantha, I know that's your cult brainwashing speaking, but we're living at the best of times, and humanity is getting better and better and better, and people are living more prosperous, more free, more stable lives with access to more food, more medicine, more clean water, lower child morality, and people are being kinder and kinder to each other. And most of human history is people being kind to each other. The violence is are rare exceptions. If the violence was the norm, we wouldn't be able to survive. Most of civilization has been a story of cooperation and sympathy and people working with each other and achieving mutual goals and working with each other to help out each other. The violence gets our attention the most because we don't like violence and it grabs our attention. So when it happens, when the cruelty and the violence justifiably grabs our attention, but if that was the norm, we wouldn't survive. Human nature is a lot more based on care and sympathy and cooperation than it is by motivated a lot more based on that than cruelty and violence. Um, yeah.
I
Okay.
agree completely, but I think there is some good points that Samantha put on here. That if you think Gaza is the worst thing that's happened ever, you're pretty privileged and you're kind of ignorant about humanity's past. There have been dark times. Some people, when we look at war, there's a miscalculation that when you think these two nations are at war and these horrible things happen, yeah, but that's not a good representation of the amount of population in those two nations that are directly involved in the war, right? So, like, and during the Civil War, there was a small part of the population that was actively in combat and actively affected by it. So, when we look at the horrors of the Civil War, or we look at the horrors of some of these wars, we have to understand that there's other places within that nations where people are getting along, they're surviving, they're gathering together, and you have to look at humanity through these tribes. Okay, maybe when this tribe fights that tribe, it's bad. But you have to understand that humanity keeping that tribe together on one side is the humanity that's also keeping the other tribe together. So you have to look at it. Okay, when these tribes fight, that friction is bad, but you have to understand that that friction is two tribes protecting themselves. You have to understand, well, I mean, for them to be a group, they have to care about each other. That's why they're a group. They might have competing interests which lead to the friction, but in their nature they are gathered together with a common goal and understanding and basically, you know, human decency towards each other that leads them to care about the interests of these groups. So humans, as a creature that is a group animal, we care about the group and the well-being of the group. And these groups clash, but the nature is not that humans are evil, it's that humans protect their group. What do you think, Armin? Am I correct in
Yep.
what I'm like trying to tie these things together?
Yeah. I don't want to go into a biology class, but basically, our survival dependent on a group cooperation. So we're very, very much motivated by making other people happy and being seen as useful in our tribe and being appreciating other people and being appreciated by others. It's a biological need that makes us cooperate with each other.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.